Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Now, voting has begun for the third phase of Bihar Assembly elections. There are 50 seats at stake in this phase. Well, that is the top story that will be following through the day today. But let us begin with the headlines. Polling underway for phase 3 of elections in Bihar. Fate of 808 candidates, including heavyweights like Lalu's sons, being sealed in this phase. Prime Minister's marathon meetings with as many as 20 heads of states and governments of Africa as part of the Indo-Africa Forum Summit. Sushma Swaraj to inaugurate India-Africa Business Forum today. India moves up 12 spots in the World Bank's annual report on countries in ease of doing business. It now ranks 130 among a list of 189 nations. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg to hold a town hall question and answer session at IIT Delhi. Visits Taj Mahal as part of his India visit. US reverses stances on Syrian allies. Iran might join Syrian peace talks with the US and Russia slated next week in Vienna. Well, our top focus, of course, is the elections in Bihar, where voting is underway in the third phase of elections. Well, polling is going on in 50 constituencies across the state, and the fate of some heavyweights is being sealed as we speak. Well, the list of heavyweights include RJD chief Lalu Prasad Yadav's sons. Well, here is the latest from the ground.
Elaborate security arrangements are in place as 50 constituencies in Bihar vote in the third phase of elections. Each polling station has a minimum of 5 central paramilitary force personnel to ensure free and fair polls.
जितने भी क्रिटिकल बूथ्स हैं, जैसे दियारा का क्षेत्र हो चाहे नक्सल प्रभावित क्षेत्र हो, वो सारे जगहों पर ये एरियल पेट्रोलिंग से उसका निगरानी किया जाए.
50 constituencies spread over 6 districts are polling. The districts are Patna, Saran, Vaishali, Nalanda, Bhojpur and Buxar. The Election Commission has cut short the time for voting by 1 hour in as many as 10 constituencies. Polling in these constituencies will end at 4 p.m, while in the remaining 40 constituencies, it will end today at 5 p.m.
सभी विधानसभा क्षेत्रों में स्वच्छ एवं निष्पक्ष मतदान सुनिश्चित कराए जाने के लिए सभी मतदान केंद्रों पर अर्धसैनिक बलों की प्रतिनियुक्ति की गई है और निष्पक्ष चुनाव कराने के संबंध में जितने भी सुरक्षात्मक उपाय किए जाने चाहिए थे वे सुरक्षात्मक उपाय किए गए हैं.
Let's take a look now at some of the crucial numbers of the third phase. A total of 50 constituencies are polling today. 808 candidates are in the fray, out of which 71 or 9% are female candidates. A total of 13,648 polling stations are being used. 1.45 crore people are eligible to cast their vote, out of which 78,31,388 are male, 66,86,718 female voters and 599 others. The fate of several heavyweights is being sealed at the moment. Among them are Lalu Prasad Yadav's son Tejasvi Prasad from Raghopur and Tej Pratap Yadav from Mahua. The other prominent leaders who are facing the electoral test are BJP leaders Nand Kishore Yadav from Patna Sahib, Deputy Speaker Amarendra Pratap Singh from Ara, and BJP's Chief Whip in the State Assembly Arun Kumar Sinha from Kumrar. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, let's go across to my colleague Kriti Mishra, who's stationed right now in Vaishali. This is one of the districts where which is going to polls today. Kriti, we saw the first 2 rounds of polling in Bihar saw a good voter turnout. It's really early in the morning, just 1 hour into the voting. But what is the response that you are seeing there?
Right, Aishwarya. So I can absolutely say this, that all the measures that the Election Commission has put in to really inspire voters that they come out in large numbers and cast their vote, that is clearly what we can see on the ground here. I am right now here in Vaishali. It is one of the districts that is going to polls today. You can see that large number of voters have come out. These are aged voters, women voters, young voters, all around since 6:30 in the morning. They've come out, queued just to cast their votes, and you can see that this polling station is being manned by central paramilitary forces, and of course all the polling personnel are there. They're very meticulously checking the records just to ensure that peaceful elections take place. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Now, as far as this phase is concerned, Kriti, there are a number of candidates whose obviously fate is being sealed, but among them, one of the key people that we'll be looking at will be Lalu Prasad's sons, both of whom are contesting in this phase from Vaishali, isn't it?
Absolutely, Aishwarya. So this is a make and mar round for both NDA and Mahagathbandhan. If I talk about 2014, the BJP did overwhelmingly well in this region, and of course it hopes to do well this time around, also something that even Finance Minister Arun Jaitley reiterated. But of course, Cynosure has become Vaishali, where Lalu Prasad Yadav's sons are making their electoral debut. So as far as this phase is concerned, Saran is the political turf of Lalu Prasad Yadav, and Nalanda is the home turf of Chief Minister Nitish Kumar Yadav. So they've tried very hard to retain their base, but the BJP is also leaving no stone unturned to dent their votes. So of course the fate of Lalu Prasad Yadav's sons would be sealed today, and we'll see how would be the genesis of their political life that is going to get shaped today. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Kriti, obviously we're talking about Lalu Prasad's sons, but we also have some other key candidates, especially when we talk about BJP leader Nand Kishore Yadav. We also have ministers Shyam Rajak and Shravan Kumar. Now, these are also the seats really and the candidates whom everybody would be looking at.
Absolutely, Aishwarya. So, Nand Kishore Yadav has been the leader of opposition in the outgoing assembly. He is considered to be the strong man of the BJP, and Patna Sahib is also considered as a stronghold of the BJP. But that's where the JDU started Har Ghar Dastak. That was the centerpiece of its election campaign, going round, knocking doors and doors and asking people, taking stock of the achievements of the state government. So, the Mahagathbandhan or the Grand Alliance has really worked very hard to, really secure votes and swing in its favor, the mood of the people. But of course, the BJP has also kept the fingers on the pulse of the voters, and it is trying very hard. For the third phase, it has said that it's going to be the stronghold of the BJP. So we are of course looking at the strongmen of the BJP, Nand Kishore Yadav, and also a slew of ministers from the outgoing government. Over to you, Aishwarya.
All right, Kriti, you keep tracking all those developments in Bihar. We'll keep coming back to you. As my colleague Kriti Mishra is pointing out, it is going to be a very important phase, especially for the NDA. It is being considered as a make or mar round for the NDA, and the fate of some crucial candidates really will be decided in this phase. And in other news, well, it will be a marathon meeting session for the Prime Minister, as he will meet as many as 20 heads of states and governments from Africa at the Hyderabad House as part of the 3rd India-Africa Forum Summit. The bilaterals will include talks with Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe, South African President Jacob Zuma, Swaziland King Msati III, Nigerian President Mr. Buhari, and Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama. Now, both the sides are expected to discuss key strategic issues of trade, energy, security, UN Security Council reforms, as well as ways to enhance cooperation in areas of blue or ocean economy, maritime security and counter-terrorism. Modi had said that this summit is going to be one of the biggest gatherings of African countries outside Africa, which is a reflection of the desire on part of both Africa and India to engage more intensively in our quest for a better future. The Prime Minister will also hold a dinner for the leaders attending the summit today. Well, today is the third day of the third edition of India-Africa Summit, and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will inaugurate the India-Africa Business Forum. Now, Sushma Swaraj will hold bilateral meetings with as many as 12 leaders from the African region separately today. Meanwhile, on the second day on Tuesday, India reiterated its call for a permanent seat at the UNSC. Speaking at the Foreign Ministers' meet, Sushma Swaraj said that although Indians and Africans comprise nearly 2.5 billion people, they continue to be excluded from the appropriate representation in the institutions of global governance. Let's take a listen.
On day 2 of the India-Africa Summit, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj forcefully put India's case for a permanent seat at the UNSC. Addressing her counterparts at the ministerial meeting on Tuesday, Sushma said both India and Africa must join hands to seek representation for nearly 2.5 billion people in both countries.
India and Africa can no longer be excluded from their rightful place of the permanent membership of the UN Security Council. How can we expect legitimacy from a governance structure that excludes the entire African continent and a country which represents 1/6 of humanity?
Sushma also pitched for counter-terror cooperation with Africa in the backdrop of the threat posed by the ISIS and Boko Haram. For this, she proposed intelligence exchange and training with all 54 African countries.
We must step up our cooperation through intelligence exchange, training and other measures to counter this menace. We also hope that the international community will cooperate with urgency to adopt the Comprehensive Convention against International Terrorism.
In line with Prime Minister Modi's development agenda, the participating African nations sought India's cooperation in the area, particularly HRD and MSME sectors.
I wish to highlight the great strides made by your micro, small and medium enterprises towards realizing our development agenda. The MSMEs' share in economic activities continue to grow steadily. In many of our countries, more than 70% of employment is generated through this sector. Thus, it is vital for this forum to put measures that will boost the support base for this sector.
Cooperation in several other key areas like energy, trade and security was also discussed at the meet, which set the agenda for Thursday's summit. It's being billed as the biggest gathering of foreign dignitaries in New Delhi since the 1983 Non-Aligned Summit.
There is hardly any difference between India and African nations on the question of social and economic development, but they are trying hard to create a convergence on the question of terrorism and Security Council reform. It will be interesting to see on Friday how they can reach the convergence. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha television with camera person DK Pandey in Delhi from the summit place.
And in related news, while stressing on the need to further strengthen Indo-African ties, now Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has said that India wants its economy to grow much faster. He also said that India will continue to strive for growth as the country's growth potential was much higher.
India wants its economy to grow much faster as it eyes new opportunities for trade and economic cooperation with Africa. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said, despite China having a few decades advantage over India and the reform process being much delayed, the country to grow much faster.
India today aspires to grow much faster. And when I say we aspire to grow much faster, we are still not satisfied with the present growth rates that we've achieved. They may be, in comparison to the rest of the countries, quite reasonably high. But our potential, I think, in a friendlier environment, both within and outside, is much higher.
Over the past few years, India's annual trade with Africa has increased to $72 billion. But it's still far behind China's $200 billion. But India is now attaching high importance to ties with Africa.
India and Africa together may well become the engines of growth for the entire world. India can contribute its capital, skills, technological capabilities to sustain Africa's growth. Africa, in turn, can support India's growth through mutually beneficial resource partnership and easier access to each other's expanding market.
With the India-Africa Forum Summit, India hopes to further deepen its ties with the continent. But the country will focus on a developmental partnership for both regions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And then some good news coming. Well, India has jumped to 12 places in the World Bank report on list of countries in ease of doing business. Now, India was ranked 142 till last year. It is now at spot 130. The list contains a total of 189 countries. The World Bank released its annual report Doing Business 2016, which is topped by Singapore, followed by New Zealand, Denmark, South Korea, Hong Kong, Britain and the US. China is ranked 84th and Pakistan is at 138th place. Pakistan, in fact, has slipped 10 spots from 128 last year, while China has moved 6 spots in a year from 90 since the last report. The World Bank said India, which has a global ranking of 130, implemented 2 reforms during the past year. For example, in starting a business, India eliminated the requirements for a paid-in minimum capital and a certificate to commence business operations, significantly streamlining the process for starting a business. Well, World Bank's chief economist and senior vice president Kaushik Basu said that a forward movement of 12 spots in ease of doing business by an economy of the size of India is a remarkable achievement. And now let's take a look at what all events are lined up for the day in the day ahead. A high-level inter-ministerial meeting to ensure streamlining of approvals for construction projects in urban areas will take place today. The meeting will be attended by ministers concerned and secretaries along with the Cabinet Secretary. Urban Development Minister Venkaiah Naidu said that the considerable progress can be achieved only after speedy clearances for construction projects. He also noted that a shortage of lands is among the key challenges in promoting the housing sector in urban areas and urged state governments to consider waiving off or reduction in different taxes and levies to promote affordable housing projects across the country. Sri Lanka will release 86 Indian fishermen today. Now, all these 86 Tamil Nadu fishermen were arrested by the Lankan Navy in the past 2 months. Tamil Nadu government would also release 2 Sri Lankan fishermen who were arrested for trespassing into the Indian waters, and they were lodged in a Tamil Nadu jail. Ahead of Diwali, the Supreme Court will hear the cracker ban case issue. A PIL was filed in this regard by the fathers of 3 children between the age of 6 and 14 months. In the PIL, they stressed on their right to be brought up in a pollution-free environment and sought that the government agencies be restrained from issuing licenses for the sale of crackers in the national capital. The Supreme Court recently said that it would consider limiting fireworks on Diwali from 5 in the evening to 10 p.m. A special court in Delhi will hear the final arguments in the 2G spectrum allocation scam case in which former Telecom Minister A. Rajya, DMK MP Kanimori and 15 others are facing trial. However, all accused have denied allegations levelled against them by the CBI. CBI in its charge sheet had alleged a loss of 30,984 crore rupees to the exchequer in the allocation of 122 licenses for 2G spectrum, which was scrapped by the Supreme Court in February 2012. The court had in October 2011 framed charges against the 3 accused under various provisions of the Indian Penal Code and under the relevant sections of Prevention of Corruption Act. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, a month after hosting Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Facebook's headquarters, its founder Mark Zuckerberg will hold a town hall question and answer session at IIT Delhi today. Zuckerberg landed in India on Tuesday and posted pictures of his visit to the Taj Mahal on Facebook.
A month after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the Facebook's Silicon Valley headquarters, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg will hold a town hall question and answer session at the IIT Delhi today. Zuckerberg will interact with 900-strong audience and is expected to speak for about 15 minutes before answering questions for an hour. Only 1 in 9 of the over 8,000-strong student community will get an entry to the hall after being selected through a lottery. Facebook received over 3,000 applications for the event. India has over 130 million users, the second largest user base for the world's largest social networking site after the US. Having described Indians as the one of our most active and engaged communities, the Facebook founder is likely to elaborate on his vision of taking the internet to everyone and everywhere. On Tuesday, Zuckerberg visited one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal. Sharing pictures, the 31-year-old described the experience more stunning than expected. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from across the border now. Well, Nepal's parliament will elect their new president today after the country promulgated a new constitution last month. Now, major political parties are contesting for the prestigious post as the parliament failed to meet the deadline to come up with a consensus on the presidential candidate. Now, CPN UML's vice chairperson Vidya Bhandari, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party Nepal chairman Kamal Thapa and Madheshi Janadhikar Forum Loktantrik chairman Vijay Kumar Gachadhar are among the top candidates running for the post. If Bhandari is elected, she would be the first woman president in Nepal's history. And in the other top international story, well, Iran might join the key Syrian peace process talks with the US and Russia, which is slated to take place in Vienna later this week. Now, this is as the US reversed its stance on the Syrian ally. Even though Iran has always proposed for a peaceful transition in Syria, it has never been involved in multilateral peace talks.
As such, in looking for different multilateral settings and for the right key partners to be present, we do expect, in this case, that Iran will be invited to participate.
A strategic move by the US, as it seems to reverse the long-standing opposition to Iran. Washington is certainly not welcoming Iran to Syria talks, but will now tolerate Iran's involvement in resolving the Syrian conflict.
I didn't say the U.S. put out an invitation. I said it's expected that Iran will be invited to attend. Point one. Point two, it's up to Iran to decide whether they're going to or not when they are asked, and if they decide to go, who goes and who represents for them. There have been multilateral discussions among other participants about this aspect, and I would leave it at that.
Russia, meanwhile, reiterated that Iran and other countries, including Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, must be part of any talks for resolving the Syrian conflict, as he called for greater cooperation and understanding. Reports suggest that Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif had a telephonic conversation with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on the scene. Lavrov also spoke to the US Secretary of State John Kerry.
И мы именно с таких позиций участвуем в этих усилиях, чтобы этот внешний круг именно помог сирийцам сесть за один стол и начать переговоры, а не пытался что-то согласовывать в качестве навязанного извне рецепта урегулирования.
For the first time, the Syrian allies Iran and Russia might come together to the negotiating table against the West to find a political solution to the 4-year-old Syrian conflict. Western-backed opposition and the US allies have strongly opposed Iran's role in Syria. Washington still does not regard Iran as a key partner. Iran too takes a similarly negative view of American involvement. According to the US and its allies, the only solution to the ongoing Syrian crisis lies in the ouster of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, which Russia and Iran deny. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now a look at some more international stories in World Wrap. The UN General Assembly on Tuesday voted overwhelmingly in adopting a resolution calling for an end to the economic, commercial and financial embargo imposed by the United States against Cuba. 191 UN members voted in favor of the non-binding resolution, while the US and Israel voted against it. It is the 24th time that the 193-member UN General Assembly has adopted such a resolution on this topic. What is different this time around is the fact that Washington, D.C. and Havana have restored diplomatic ties. Both US and Cuba restored full diplomatic ties in July this year, but the US has not yet repealed the embargo. Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon has said that his country is facing a wide variety of threats, ranging from the Islamic militants wielding missiles and rockets to the nuclear attack. Moshe Yaalon is on a visit to the United States and was speaking with U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter. Meanwhile, in another incident of violence, two Palestinians stabbed an Israeli soldier in the West Bank occupied. The Israeli military said that soldiers had approached two Palestinians that they believed to be acting suspiciously at a junction near a Jewish settlement when the suspects stabbed and wounded one of the soldiers. The troops then shot the Palestinians. As thousands of Middle Eastern refugees are trying to reach Europe, Greece's migration minister said that the EU had offered to pay the cost of accommodating 20,000 more migrants in temporary camps on its islands. Now, Greece, which is mired in economic crisis, made clear its readiness to provide shelter for more refugees and was strictly conditional on EU financial aid and on the understanding that those offered shelter would later be relocated. More than 500,000 migrants have transited through Greece so far this year, many fleeing Syria's civil war on a short but perilous crossing from Turkey on inflatable rubber boats. Now, Apple and Twitter both reported higher than expected quarterly revenues. The world's largest company by market value, Apple saw sales of iPhones surging 36%, driven by the launch of the 6S and 6S Plus models last month. Twitter also reported better than expected quarterly review. Twitter had 320 million average active monthly users in the third quarter, up from 316 million in the prior quarter. Twitter also forecast a four-quarter revenue between $695 million and $710 million, which is well below than the analysts' estimate. Well, it's time now to get you all the sporting news in Sports Speed. Indian cricketer Amit Mishra was released after arrest in an assault case in Bengaluru. Mishra was grilled in a 3-hour-long interrogation session before being arrested. The police asked him to appear before them in a week's time to answer criminal charges of assaulting a woman friend in Bangalore. Olympic bronze medalist wrestler Yogeshwar Dutt has said that 2016 Rio Olympics will be his last appearance at the event. The 32-year-old, however, made it clear that he would not retire after the Olympic Games and he might take part in the Asian and the Commonwealth Games if his body permits. Top seed Roger Federer eased past Mikhail Kushukhin to reach the second round of Basel International. Federer beat Mikhail Kushukhin 6-1, 6-2 in 55 minutes. He will next face Philipp Kohlschreiber of Germany. Chelsea's miserable run this season continued as the holders were knocked out in the League Cup by the Stoke City in a penalty shootout. The Blues were heading towards their 8th defeat in 16 matches when substitute Rennie came to the rescue with an equaliser in the 90th minute. However, Eden Hazard missed a penalty in the shootout to hand Stoke the victory. Well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News. But before we wrap up, now NASA's Cassini spacecraft is all set for its historic flyby on planet Saturn's moon, Enceladus, today. Now, scientists believe that it will provide new insights in an ocean beneath the crust, which they think might have the ingredients needed to support life. Well, it will be Cassini's deepest ever dive through the Enceladus plume. Take a look as we take your leave. Thanks for watching.